Good morning. It is wonderful to be with you on this glorious day. And I have titled this walkie-talkie, Taking the Time to Reveal Treasure. Taking the time to reveal treasure. Now, many of you know that Scout and I have been into astrophotography over these last few months. And some of the pictures that we've taken, in particular, things like the Heart Nebula, the Flaming Star Nebula, the Whirlpool Galaxy, all those things you would not be able to see with the naked eye, and you wouldn't be able to see it even if you got a camera out and you took a picture of the night sky. You wouldn't be able to see it because they're very faint. There's a low amount of light that is transmitting to our eyes or to our cameras. So what you need a camera that is designed to take long exposures. That means it opens its shutter and takes in light over a period of time. The only problem with that is if you did that on a normal tripod, the Earth is revolving. So what would happen is you'd get star trails, these long lines, which can look pretty cool if that's what you're going for. So what you need is the equatorial mount that would be polar aligned to the north, so that as the Earth is revolving, that mount keeps the star perfectly aligned in the center of your camera. So you don't get those long star trails, and you can take long exposures. And as you take those long exposures, you're gathering light over periods of time. Now, some of the amazing pictures that you see online, some of these people spend about 30 hours of gathering information, gathering light, in order to start to see these treasures from the night sky. And we're still working at it. We're still very inexperienced in it. But you know, I was absolutely shocked when I got a particular camera that had the IR cut filter removed, so that it was able to pick up this emission nebula, and then the Heart Nebula just popped out over this long exposure of about 3 minutes. And it was just like, wow, that's something that we can't see. Anyway, that's technical, isn't it? I'm not an expert in it, but you're probably thinking, what on earth are you going on about? My main point is that it takes time in astronomy, in astrophotography, to find those wonderful treasures in the night sky. And some people are absolutely brilliant at it. They've got these really expensive mounts that track or follow the rotation of the Earth to take these long exposures and get these wonderful images. Like, you know, some of them are nearly as good as the Hubble Space Telescope. So really it takes time, doesn't it, to see treasures, in particular the night sky. Now I'd say that in the same way there's a spiritual lesson in this, that, you know, it takes time for us to see God's glory. It doesn't necessarily have to take time to see God's glory. He can come down in power and show you his glory. But I was just thinking of a guy, a prophet in the Old Testament, whose name was Moses. Now he spent 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain of God, in God's presence. And he wanted to see God's glory, and the Lord then showed him the back of the tail end of his glory. And he came down because he spent time with God. His face was so radiant that the people were like, you have to cover up your face, it's too bright. And there's this other place called the Tent of Meeting, which Moses used to go and talk to God face to face. He used to spend time, and as he'd come out, that face would be radiant. He'd cover his face up because it was too bright for others to see. Now I love Joshua, who was kind of like an apprentice of Moses. He was his right-hand man, as it were. And it said that he used to linger or spend time in the Tent of Meeting when Moses would go out. Joshua in particular would sort of linger and spend time in God's presence and to see his glory. And that's really the lesson that I want to share with you today. That sometimes God's glory, or sometimes the treasure that God is, takes time to be in his presence, to experience that amazing treasure which is Christ himself. So just as it takes time, you know, I think we are very quick fix people, aren't we? We want it there and now. So if we spend some time praying for a couple of minutes, we're like, I don't feel anything, or I can't really experience God, so it's not worth it, so we don't bother. But I would say this, I'm trying to push into this because we get so distracted, don't we? And I keep harking on about this one point, but it's so important to practice the presence of God, because if you spend time in His presence, spend time praising Him, spend time in worship, spend time reading His Word, if we spend that quality time, just as Moses did, just as Joshua did, in the same way as astrophotographers spend time revealing these treasures from the night sky, God's glory will shine on us and make our faces radiant. How much do you want your face to be radiant, being a light for Christ in this world? So I'd say that. Take the time to see the treasure, which is Christ. How cool is that? So that's all I'm sharing with you today. Don't forget, tomorrow we have prayer at 7 on Thursday, and then we have prayer at 9 o'clock on Saturday. We do have Pastor Mark Taylor from Northern Ireland with us on Sunday, who's going to be sharing God's Word with us. He came and preached at Mariners Chapel a few years back, and our fellowship still remember that lesson, that we need to have jam time. And how relevant is that for us to see God, spend time with God and see His glory? Jam means Jesus and me. So I hope you can get some quality jam time, and don't forget to tune in and join our live feed either on YouTube or Mariners Chapel Facebook page, because I'm sure you'll be blessed, because Mark is such an anointed man, an amazing preacher, and I know that the Lord will use him powerfully on Sunday. Anyway, I'm signing off. See you later.